Hello, welcome to the Dialectic. I'm American Johnson, back in the studio, feeling at home, and very excited about the show we have for you tonight. But before we jump in, well, I guess I'll go ahead and bring my co-host BP on. A pretty big announcement for the show. From the very beginning, we've always expected this show to transfer over to BP's channel eventually, and I guess we both feel like BP's channel is like pretty popping right now. So we'll still be streaming on NonCompete live for at least a couple more weeks. But in the long run, if you want to keep watching the Dialectic, be sure to subscribe to BP's channel. Luna and I will still be participating, of course, as often as possible. But we do have some stuff coming up that we're going to be traveling and that sort of thing. So it's probably better at this point for BP to take over. But yeah, I mean, your channel's doing pretty good right now, BP. You got a big new video coming out as well. I don't know if you want to hit that real quick before we jump into the main topic.
Yeah, basically a big new video on gun control and the connections to, or lack of connection to mass shootings, and also how mass shootings aren't connected to mental health and stuff like that, and also the political ramifications of it and the ramifications on people's bodies of the gun control legislation, which means specifically more people enslaved. So we're trying to raise that up and I don't know, I guess do a little more education than I usually do. Like, you know me, I like to just riff with people and have some notes and stuff, but not do much scripted. But this whole thing has been fully scripted and stuff. So, except for my final thoughts. But my final thoughts, going like Jerry Springer and just go for it. But yeah, and one thing it is, even with FD trying to help me figure out how to make sure it could get monetized, it is not going to be able to be monetized at all. It's going to probably have the 18+ hit on it. So it's going to depend on everybody showing it love for it to really reach, but I think it has real potential, and it speaks a lot to FD. FD is like, yo, this is elevating some shit. So I'm just, I feel like it's a really good video. Put a month of work into it. That's why I've not uploaded an edited video in a month, because I've been just focusing on this. So it's longer than pretty much any of my other videos. It's gonna be around 35 to 40 minutes. I don't know the exact time right now. I gotta look, but yeah. So yeah, it's dropping tomorrow at 6 o'clock. So if y'all want to show up sharp, that'd be dope. Overthrow Media.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So
hell yeah, yeah. It's gonna be a great video, and I watched the first third of it, I guess, and I'm excited to see the rest of it. So I do recommend y'all. Well, you need to subscribe to Overthrow Media if you want to keep watching the show. So no matter what, be sure to subscribe to youtube.com/c/Overthrow Media if you want to keep having the Dialectic coming your way, and if you want to see that awesome video on gun control from a Black anarchist perspective, from BP's perspective. So, I was just about to introduce our guest, and Connie popped off. I'm sure Connie will be back, but yeah, today's topic is going to be. Oh, here we go. All right, let's go ahead and let's let our guest. Let's let Connie come in. How you doing?
I'm okay. I'm in my car currently. So
that's okay. We're no strangers to car streaming here. BP and I have both had this stream from our cars several times now, so that's not a problem.
Yeah, I live in a pretty busy neighborhood too. So if there's a random kid on a bike that starts screaming, that's normal. That's normal.
Of course, it's community. That's what we're all about here.
In the South, so that's normal. But, yeah. Hi.
Well, we're glad to have you back. We had you on, I think, Breadcast about 2 or 3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago. Mm-hmm. But we had a really good conversation. If anybody missed that, be sure to go check that out. But you are involved with with a number of orgs, including Industrial Workers of the World and Communist Party USA in Charleston, South Carolina.
Yep.
And just, I guess, before we move into the main topic, to go back to BP's video on gun control, when I went to the, I know you had the Pride Parade event, and then I went to the abortion rally thing, the Roe versus Wade rally later in the day, and one of the topics of the signs I saw was is disarm fascists, not marginalized people, or something like that. So that seems to be something that y'all
yeah, disarm fascists,
are into.
disarm the LGBTQ was what the sign said. So yeah.
Yeah, love it. So that's a great message. I'm glad to see that being rep by CPUSA down in Charleston. But yeah, I guess I'll let you introduce yourself real quick, and then maybe you can tell us what you came to talk about.
Okay. Oh, well, my name's Connie. I go by Costume Whimsy. My primary social media is actually TikTok. I do a lot of stuff through TikTok. So like you said, we just started up doing the charter for the CPUSA. One of our first official meetings is next Saturday, I believe, and we are trying to get the charter up and running. We've already got everything written out as far as what we need for that. IWW, I haven't really heard a whole lot from them in a little while. I signed up for it, and like I've gotten a couple of newsletters, but nothing really moving around. But again, unionizing down here is very difficult. However, we are getting some movement around Starbucks and stuff like that too, so that's pretty cool in this area. I don't know. I talk about a lot of communist stuff. That's what I do. Like, if I'm not working with disabled people, and I'm not working with the CPUSA, and I'm not doing my mutual aid, and I'm not doing all the stuff that I do, that's what I do. I talk about communist stuff. So there you go.
Well, that's what we're all about. That's what we're here for. So we're glad to have you. By the way, I guess we could talk about this offline, but I know a few people who are pretty active in IWW in other regions, and they might be able to help you kickstart that down there. So just remind me later, and I'll put you in touch with those folks. And if anybody's watching right now and you're involved with IWW and you want to help, get everything going in Charleston, just feel free to reach out to me, and I could put people together. That's one of the things I love about this show is like putting comrades together. So,
That'd be great.
but yeah, fantastic. But you wanted to talk today about some issues with the legislature, including, like I think you said, like basically letting white supremacists off the hook. There's some things involving anti-Semitism. Where do you want to begin with these topics?
Well, that's so difficult because there are so many things either on the docket or already passed that have like their basic roots in like white supremacy. So it's like, I really don't know where to begin other than, hopefully everybody at this point in time understands that we are all like, living in basically a commercialized slave state, and it's just getting perpetually worse by the systemic racism that's going on right now, right in front of us. Hopefully everybody is on that same page as we go forward. But like, I don't know. I did a pretty big segment about how nationalism creeped in for a little while, and how like, oh God, I'm trying to figure out the best way to articulate this as briefly as possible. Sometimes it's difficult.
Well, you can take your time. We got all the time in the world here. So
I don't.
Okay, I hear you.
I still have to go to work in the morning. So
I hear you.
Unfortunately, like I wish that I could hang out all night and talk about this stuff, but I have a limited amount of time. I mean, I guess we can talk about like, how Roe v. Wade is literally risking, women's lives constantly. Now it's like the overturn of Roe v. Wade basically it's affecting a lot of women's lives. But what a lot of people aren't talking about is the fact that the way our healthcare system has been set up for a long time, marginalized women are the ones who are victimized the most by our healthcare system. And now that there's these laws into place that allow for doctors to put themselves on hold while making emergency decisions instead of like going and doing the emergency like procedure or whatever, you're literally having women go septic, you're having women die, and it's happening like right now. Like right now. So it's like on a bigger scale than most people want to talk about right now. And it all goes back to, if it's going to affect the middle class white woman, it's going to affect those who are marginalized far more. And they're talking about all of these different legislations that are on the docket for the next couple of months that literally are, detrimental to every woman's life right now. And it's just like North Carolina is setting a bill up where men can go in posses and literally kill a woman if she decides she's going to have an abortion. Like this is literally what's going on in our country right now. I'm trying to think of the train of thought that I had when I was sending you the text message, because it was like 2 weeks ago that we had talked, and it's just a lot. As a woman in this country, it's just a lot, friends. It's a lot to deal with, especially when you're watching everything like kind of divulge in front of you. And the fact that our system was just based on all of these laws, and it's not a surprising thing to see them revert as like the climate had changed, but it still sucks. It does. Yeah. It just sucks. So I don't know where you want to go with that.
Well, Panet Rosa said, I'm sorry, that's a bill being introduced, the posse thing.
Yeah.
What do you what would we search for to find more information about that?
North Carolina 147. I'm not sure. I'm not in North Carolina anymore. I just get sent a lot of stuff from North Carolina. This was a house bill.
That seems to be coming up in Google. Hold on, I think I found an article I might be able to share with folks. Some states are ready to punish abortion in a post-Roe world. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, the legislation was literally written that men could murder a woman who was seeking care. Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's obviously.
It's dark.
Yeah. It really is, and I know that there's also, a lot of the stuff. I guess we're going to have to kind of see how it all plays out. But I mean, a lot of states are wanting to make it so you can basically. I'm not exactly sure how this mechanism works, but basically, you can sue doctors for like performing abortions, and then the state will like fund the lawsuit costs. I know that's one thing that's happening in some places. And then there are. Oh, go ahead. Do you have more information?
Yeah, so that legislation is being passed in South Carolina, Texas, Georgia, Mississippi, Florida, and a couple of other states right now. Basically, the way it works is instead of the state getting involved with a personal decision, they're making us be cops on each other, for lack of a better term. You're going to report that stuff to the lawmakers, and then you're going to have the ability to sue someone to up to $10,000. And then that person also has to pay for any court fees or anything that has to do whatsoever with the investigation. And if you are proved to be guilty, you will also incur all the other punishments by law, including paying that person who ratted you out $10,000.
Yeah. So it sounds like this is kind of a common thread, is like essentially deputizing, people to go and attack and punish and sue and possibly even kill to enforce these laws. And then I know also in some states it's going to be illegal, or it might already be illegal to give information about how to receive an abortion.
Yeah.
So theoretically, like I could be held criminally liable for just saying like, hey, you can go to California and there's this clinic that will help you. Like that would be illegal in some states in a criminal capacity. So it's really rough. And I think another thing to pay attention to right now is what the right wingers are saying about this stuff, because I've been paying a lot of attention the last couple of months to folks like Ben Shapiro and right wing talk radio, Fox News, that sort of thing. One thing that they're saying is that Roe versus Wade being repealed is actually going to be good for quote unquote the quote unquote pro-abortion side, because it will allow like full-term abortions and 9-month abortions and stuff like that. So they're actually trying to fearmonger to push for even more, of this bleak, dark legislation, and they're acting as though this is actually a win for the pro-choice side. So I mean, the right wing is definitely taking every opportunity they can to keep pushing forward, to keep the momentum going, and that's something that I find pretty scary as well.
Yeah. Well, they love to use the talking points of the left to further their agendas. It's just part of their whole package deal. So that's unsurprising at all. And I think that so many of the weird terms that like are official, we use colloquially, are terms that are coined by the far right. And it's just so freaking stupid. Like most of the arguments that people make for or against this are literally like colloquially talking points that the right initiated to begin with, like 9-month abortions, and like late, and like not understanding how people's bodies work. That's another huge part. People are legislating who don't understand how anyone's health works, how anybody's bodies work, which is a problem. I don't know. I get frustrated with. I know everybody probably here gets frustrated with the right and their absolutely unabashed way that they're just okay with the death toll, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
The harm, So.
I mean,
yeah, it's go ahead. Yeah.
I know I've noticed the other side of it too is not even just the abortions, but they were already doing this in some states before this happened. But it's just a picture an increase where people have miscarriages or something happens and they try to prosecute them for not for having a miscarriage and try to act as they had like an illegal abortion and stuff. That actually, or like there was a situation this happened before this. I remember in Alabama where a woman who got an altercation got shot and her baby killed, and then they prosecuted her for killing her baby despite she was the one that got shot. So yeah, and so like that, it feels like more of that is just going to manifest as well with the reversing of Roe v. Wade, because we always see how the state governments, especially like Alabama for example, really already abuse any authority they already have to target already marginalized women, because of course that was a black woman that happened to so.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I postulated the question. Sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
I just postulated the question, like if they passed that North Carolina law, would then, if the woman survived her attackers, would she then be able to countersue for? All right, 158.
I found the bill. Yeah,
I said
found the bill. So this is it.
147.
You were close. You were 11 off. So unfortunately, okay. So I'll just read the text. I mean, yeah. So states. So this has not been passed, but you know how these things keep. That doesn't mean it's going away. You know, it could keep cropping back up, and this is one of those things where I feel like they're trying to push the Overton window to try to make this kind of thing more acceptable. You know, and we've seen things like this happen in the past. But anyway, they say. It's a matter of indisputable scientific fact that a distinct and separate human life begins at the moment of fertilization, provides that new human life is recognized by the state as an individual person entitled to the protection under the state's laws from the moment of fertilization until natural death, requires any person willfully seeking to destroy the life of another person by any means at any stage of life or succeeds in doing so to be held accountable for attempted murder or for first-degree murder, respectively, specifies that any person, this is where the posse lynching part comes from. Any person has the right to defend his or her own life or the life of another person, even by the use of deadly force if necessary, from willful destruction by another. The state has an interest and duty to defend innocent persons from willful destruction of their lives, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Wait, how does that make any motherfucking sense?
Right.
Like you can't kill the mom and save the baby, even in like some conservative logic. It doesn't make any sense.
Right. The legislation's never been about saving babies. It's about killing women. Like, so like, the thing that's crazy to me, and like I said, I postulated this when I first found out about this bill, is like, so the way that it's written should be, if the woman is able to survive such an attack, she should be able to then countersue and get those men charged for the same crime. Not only that crime, but double, because they were trying to kill her and her unborn baby. Should be able to. However, that's not how that law is going to work. You know what I mean? Right. So like,
well, I mean, someone in the comments too said that this could also be used if this bill were to pass, you know, to justifiably in the eyes of the state, if this law gets passed, to murder doctors as well.
Yeah.
Since it says anybody who's trying to take a life. So
yeah,
there's all kinds of ramifications.
Think about it too, in just a regular general public sense of the term. Like, you know, you suspect that your neighbor, for some reason, might want to kill his wife. What do you do then? You know, like, it's just, there's no limit. It's so incredibly banana pants. Like, and that's the kind of legislation that's being written in a lot of southern states right now. It's not just North Carolina. It's, you know, by the time Texas had their shenanigans start, South Carolina, Georgia, Mississippi, and Florida all had those bills on the docket ready to go as soon as the Supreme Court made a decision either way. Like, they were ready. So, like, it's all over. It's prolific, and it's scary and terrifying.
Yeah, and I've seen, like, just in searching around, you know, a lot of people are trying to downplay this by saying, oh, it never passed. People are making a big deal out of this for no reason.
If you're saying that, so I know I'm interrupting you, but
go ahead.
If you're saying that, I gotta say this, man. At our last FTP convergence, when we were in Gainesville, there was just a thing on the docket that made it legal for people to run people over at protests with their vehicles. And then guess what happened a couple years later? it passed. So
Yeah.
it's serious. So,
Just-
And it's not just a. Oh, go ahead, Connie.
I was just gonna say it's the fact of the matter is that as long as these bills are active and on dockets, even if they are retired or have not passed yet, as long as they are being entertained by at least one of your legislators, there is still a possibility of it being passed. Like especially in the climate that we have politically right now. So
Yeah, we know how these things work. They kind of like test first. They're like testing things out and floating things out there. But this isn't just legislation; it's also ideological programming. So you can see here this kind of train of thought, this kind of like twisted logic that they're now disseminating. Okay, this is like phase one. That's basically saying like, okay, this is just the idea at this point. If you murder somebody, if you kill somebody who is like a doctor about to perform an abortion or a mother who's had an abortion, it's self-defense or justice for that unborn person. That's their logic. And that's ideological programming they're disseminating. And then, it will get traction with these, absolutely unhinged people who just want any excuse to control women and their bodies. And, that's what we really have to be focusing on, is the fact that this is a program that is being disseminated and locked in, and they will fight to push it forward, everywhere that they have any traction at all. So
absolutely.
Now, I know that you also mentioned. I'm going back to our message here about the anti-Semitism.
Oh yeah.
Is that something you wanted to talk about as well? The No Jews Allowed. Legislation.
Yeah. So in Tennessee, Knoxville, a court passed a law stating that it's okay to not allow to serve people because of like religious beliefs, as long as another service can be provided. The court case that it was based on was there was a Jewish family that was appealing to adopt a child, and they needed to go through a specific program. And one of the only places to get this program was through a Christian service. And the Christian service denied them their ability to adopt a child. They denied them their ability to go through the program, stating religious, ideological differences. So basically, it's a blanket statement for any service now. So like if you're a baker and there's a Catholic baker and he doesn't want to serve a Jewish person, he can say, I don't serve you, there's another cake shop. Like this is literally legislation that was just passed 2 weeks ago in Tennessee. So
wow.
Yeah, it's pretty
so again, this is like, oh my gosh, this is like some kind of, what it reminds me of is because there was this whole like equal service aspect to segregation. Do you remember? Do you know what I'm talking about? Like during segregation, like in the 40s and 50s and into the 60s, they had this idea that like segregation was fine as long as you had equal. They called it like equal service or something like that. So like you could have a black school and a white school, and that was fine as long as they had quote unquote the same quality of education. And of course, that's not how things played out. But this is like that same fucking ideological foundation once again. It's like, okay, it's fine. You can discriminate against Jewish people or whoever the hell, you want, as long as there's equal service provided somewhere else. And it's like we're really going back to segregation now. Like we're really going back there.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not at all surprised, to be honest. Like, I think one of the things that we got to think about is, I can't remember what year it was, but a few years back, the Civil Rights Act expired. And they didn't renew it, then automatically reverse things, but then it opens that window for all this stuff to come through years later. And they're not dumb. They're not going to do it immediately when people are watching. They're going to wait till time goes by and then slowly creep it in. And that sounds like what's happening.
Yeah, separate but equal. That's another. I know that I read that was like a phrase that got thrown around a lot, in the legislation in Supreme Court during segregation.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like you can have separate but equal cake shops and adoption agencies and that sort of thing. Just go right back to segregation. It's like look, we're taking all these massive steps. And by the way, remember, folks, that this is all happening under Joe Biden's administration with a mandate for the Democrat Party. Okay, I mean, like this is we were all told in back in 2019. Everybody said if you don't vote for Joe Biden, then we're going to have this horrible wave of fascist legislation. It's like, well, look what we have. We voted for Joe Biden. We got him in office. The Democrats are in office, and they're just letting this shit happen. That should tell you a lot about the nature of liberalism in the USA.
I mean, remember the Democrats started the Klan. Joe Biden, the Democrats pushed a super predator bill along with Bill Clinton, along with Hillary Clinton. These people are all on the same side. I think one of the things people don't realize is they're all on the same side. That's why I'm not for electoral politics, is because they're two sides of the same coin. They just act like they're in contention, but they're really not. And that's why that all goes through the way it does, is because there's no real contention. They just got to make it look like to us that they are in contention, but it's not really true. So
yeah. Joe Biden literally eulogized Strom Thurmond, one of the most racist politicians of our lifetimes, by request.
Yeah.
By request. Strom Thurmond was like, "Hey, do my eulogy," and Joe was like, "Got you." It was.
People don't remember. Joe Biden was chosen as Barack Obama's vice president because he was so conservative, and believe it or not, when Obama first ran for president, he was considered this like firebrand progressive. Of course, he didn't turn out to be in practice, but they thought nobody would vote for Biden for Obama unless he had like this really conservative white dude Joe Biden in his VP.
Yeah.
So I just want to say one thing about Obama, though. Just because of Obama, look, he was never on black people's side. It never was. Reverend Wright. That's all I got to say. Reverend Wright.
Yeah.
And you should have known from that day forward that there was 100% no chance that he was ever going to be on the people's side. But, I mean, I knew that from getting presidents just don't do that. But the thing is, like, we got to look at these fools for what they are. They're all just white supremacists from the first one to this one. You know what I mean? It hasn't really changed. And when we try to see it as if they're like some force of like, they actually got some back and forth going on, then I think we delude ourselves. And I think that's why I always argue that the whole swap thing that happened in the 60s where, Democrats became the progressive, that's all cap. It was all just a fucking lie and an illusion to convince people to chill out. You know what I mean? To convince people to go along with the program. And and now we're seeing what happens when you go along with the program.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know, and there's one more thing, Connie, just to throw this into the mix. And I've got plenty more I can complain about Joe Biden, but I want to make sure we get on all the stuff that you wanted to come in and talk about. You also wanted to talk about the Senate not wanting to investigate white supremacists. That was the last thing that I'm reading.
So like that was, so like that all that shit kind of just like came out all around the same time. It was very interesting that on the same. So there was two different dockets. One was for setting up an alert system for an active shooter in your area, and then another one that was investigations of white supremacy, prolific white supremacy in government, services like the FBI and all that stuff. Which we know the FBI did a report on this. This is actually like because of the Freedom of Information Act, they already exist in there. We know that. But they were passing a bill that would allow for more funding for that kind of thing to kind of root that stuff out. And the Senate wants to pass neither one of those bills. They want to not stop the gun violence, and they want to also not stop white supremacists from just literally being authoritarians all over us. So, and that's the whole mass shooter to politician pipeline of the repressive right is just insane to me. So like it's all stemming from like the same talking points. It's just how they act on them that ends up determining what kind of action they're going to take towards the public, really. So it's just interesting.
That is also literally what my video tomorrow is about a lot, is that it is directly stemmed from colonization. One thing is, I'm going to be very clear, I'm not for gun control at all. No. But I'm also, the thing is with the guns, and the reality of it is, right now with gun control, all it does is arm white supremacists and leave white supremacists with the only guns. And that's why I am not for gun control, because my belief of force falling in the hands of tyrants. And no matter, even if you got the on the ground protest fascists out, you still got the police and the government that are clearly fascist. And hopefully it's becoming more and more clear to people as time goes on, because all these things are just different steps in pushing forward fascist society. And yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
I think one of the things I was going to say about Biden is like, and just liberals and Democrats in general, is it seems to me that one of their biggest jobs is just, sheepdogging and pacifying people who would otherwise be outraged at shit like this that's going on. Like, for instance, we can look at the COVID situation, and we know that about 4 days before the State of the Union address, the CDC went and just basically cooked the books and changed the ways that they were tracking COVID, so that instantly the map went from like deep red to bright green as far as like COVID spread. And it's like, somebody said this to me. I can't remember who said this to me, but somebody it might have been somebody at CPUSA. I'm not sure, when I was in Charleston, but somebody told me that Donald Trump kind of paved the way by getting half the country to stop caring about COVID and to just become this death cult, and then Biden finished the job by getting the other half, essentially, at least of white people, to just stop caring about COVID. And now we have 40,000 people per day are getting COVID, and hospitals are once again becoming overwhelmed. I have a cousin who's a healthcare worker and just talks about how, they're just they have 3 or 4 nurses actually at MUSC in the emergency room. I don't know if you realize this, and that's not enough, and they're getting overwhelmed.
No, it's not.
It's still the 3rd leading cause of death, COVID, in the USA. So, and that's from what's being tracked. Who knows how many deaths we don't know about because they're not getting properly tracked. So,
right.
As Ani Lu Chan said, it's a death slave machine. It requires and thrives on death and slavery. We don't vote on it. We have to escape or break it. That's really well said.
Yep.
1000%. Yeah, Luna and I did a stream Sunday night about slavery in the USA. And the ways in which, I don't know if you saw this, Connie and BP, but basically in Arizona they admitted that without slavery the system would collapse. And I found out since doing that stream, a lot of folks from Arizona contacted us and left comments and that sort of thing. And I found out it's even worse than we thought. Arizona in particular, they ship in inmates from other states to put them in Arizona. They have horrifying chain gangs, basically, where they literally wear the old black and white striped suits and make them do hard labor. And they do all this stuff, to profit corporations and to keep the system going. The United States of America's system would not function without slavery. It's just there's so many contact points where we see how liberalism and fascism and all these reactionary ideologies basically join forces and build a system that is brutal, destructive, oppressive, and it's really time for us to figure out that voting is not the path forward. We can't vote any harder than we've already voted. We got the Democrats in office. We got the president, Biden. We did everything the liberals said we would need to do to escape all of this carnage, and we're getting nothing for it. Things are getting worse and worse.
Yeah, I think one thing we got to realize with the whole system as a whole is that it's on a trajectory. No matter who you put in that fucking office, it ain't gonna change the trajectory. These people just we act like these presidents are actual leaders, but they're really just pawns of these rich fools. These, I don't mean just rich as in they have a lot of money, but they control the resources. And that's who they serve, and they don't listen to us anyway. So when we try to fight and listen to all the fight about who we're gonna elect in, I'm yo, Trump, Biden, all the same. They ain't really different except the approach, except what people they're speaking to. But all these fools are literally just PR agents for the elite who have their own interests, and they don't give a damn about what we say. So, it says, the clay and iron empire got to crumble. That's the only way it's actually gonna have a way to have our human rights be respected, much less be free. So
2020, Georgia, a group of farmers in Georgia were caught conducting themselves very poorly in that they were enslaving a bunch of immigrant workers And it was actually, yeah, it was actually a huge ring, a multi-million-dollar ring of privatized slavery done to immigrant and migrant workers. So yeah, no. And then if you're not part of that particular branch of slavery as a working class citizen, you can always be threatened with, the prison industrial complex. So there's that slavery,
Yeah, isn't the migrant one the same dude who would pretend to be Joe Biden?
I think so. I'm not sure. To be fair with you, I just know that they're disgusting human beings, and I hope that they have bad things happen to them.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think like the thing is like it's crazy that like the cat, especially the cat who was pretending to be Joe Biden, who was using the fact basically said he was Joe Biden, and that if they did not keep working for free, that he would have them deported because he's Joe Biden.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I didn't know that he was claiming that. I know that like they were living in like hovels with no running water, no electricity, no AC, getting barely enough food to sustain them. I know that they were told basically that if they did not continue to work under those conditions with that level of life and care, that they would be deported. I didn't know that he was impersonating Joe Biden to do that.
It might be the same people, but it literally might be a second asshole for all we know. Because
it could very well be just another dick. It could be just
plenty of assholes to go around.
There's plenty in America. There's plenty. We literally train them in our systems here. So
yeah. But just to be clear, like I think when we have conversations like this, I always want to make it clear to people like nobody on this panel here, and hopefully nobody watching. I hope none of you are doomers. Like we're not doomers about this shit. It's bleak. No. It's dark. It sucks. But everyone here has been fighting hard and making changes in our communities, and you can be doing the same thing wherever you are. So I mean, like BP's been working with Fight Toxic Prisons. We've had plenty of streams and workshop streams with Fight Toxic Prisons. You can see some of the stuff that BP's been doing, and the streams we've had with the other orgs that BP's been traveling around the country and talking to folks with. I know that Connie's down in Charleston working very hard to try to change the lives of people in that community, in my hometown. So I appreciate the work that y'all are doing down there. There are people everywhere fighting hard. It's just, I just hope that y'all realize that voting it's like brushing your teeth. I think somebody said that at one point. It's like brushing your teeth. You don't really talk to other people about it. You just do it, or just don't. I don't know. It's up to you if you want to brush your teeth or not. But but it's not exactly going to change the world.
Hey, I gotta push back on that. It's more like a mouthwash because you don't even tell them about it, and it doesn't work. But you can do it if you want to. You know what I mean?
It might feel good. It might taste nice, but but like it's but direct action, mutual aid, organizing, unionizing, these are the ways forward. And just knowing that we have to build dual power. I'm working on a video right now about dual power structures, and one particular example that I'm highlighting in this video is the People's CDC. That's a group of doctors and healthcare workers and normal people as well who just got together and they're like, the CDC is doing a terrible job under the Biden administration, and the people deserve real solid information. So they just formed this organization. And I heard that if anybody has any documentation of this, I heard that in Zoom calls they actually do say that like capitalism is like a major driving force of the death rate of COVID in the USA. But anyway, that kind of stuff we can do. We don't need to wait for a corporate interest or a nonprofit or the state to come in and intervene. We can build dual power structures like that right now, and that is the way forward. So I just want to make sure everybody knows, like we know that things are really rough right now, but we're not giving up. We're fighting really hard, and people are making differences. And we need you, whoever's watching this right now, on our side, lining up and helping to fight with us. So let's see. Connie, I know that you don't have a ton of time. Did you have any other topics you wanted to bring up or any other thoughts you wanted to share?
I was trying, like,
Not rushing you off. I just know you.
I know.
I know you got to sleep soon. So.
I've been sitting here this whole time, like, trying to think of, like, what point I wanted to, like, talk to you about when I was like, hey, should we talk about this on your live? I think we hit a lot of really, really good points. Speaking on, he was talking about gun reform earlier and stuff like that. The only, like, knowledge that I'm aware of any kinds of gun reform that we've ever had in this country are centralized around racism. So yeah. I'm definitely not about gun reform for that reason alone. Like, you were literally trying to just disarm the most disenfranchised of us. It's not going to help anything. But as far as doomers are concerned, constantly I get questions, like, all the time about, like, what are you doing? What are you doing to help people? And it's just like, if I've said it a million times and I'll say it again, like, if people just took a moment out of their day to just do one nice thing, feed one person, give one cup of coffee, any of that stuff, you can actually start to meet people in these communities and actually find out where you can help. And I think that's a good starting point for a lot of people who have that question, because I know constantly you're asked that question, I'm asked that question, I'm sure you're asked that question as well. Like, we're all asked how we get started, and it's just by going and doing, really. Let me see. I really am trying to sit here and think, because I know I had a point, and I'll probably remember after we get off the stream, because that's how this brain works here. No, I mean,
well, you're always welcome back, and we'll try to do some earlier streams with you moving forward, because I know this is a really late time slot for you.
If it was just like, if it was a Friday or Saturday, I'd be fine, because those are the days I don't work. But yeah, no, weekdays are rough for me. I wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning. But thank you for inviting me back. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure.
I think like a lot of it too, like, what I was deeply concerned about as well is, like, I don't think people realize how pell-mell quickly we are heading down this path of just straight up fascism and saying the quiet part out loud. And I think one of the things that, like, you guys highlight fairly regularly, how liberals are not helping, they're hurting. And one of the things that I think we need to all be on the same page about is, and I think a lot of people who are leftists but also very well-meaning tend not to think that liberals are as bad, because they're not saying the quiet part out loud. But they're the more dangerous of the two situations, because they're the ones that they're going to be stabbing us in the back later. They're the ones who are calling the cops on us. Those are the ones who are Karening more hard than the Republican that's going to be like, F you and your mama, Jesus loves you. Like, that, I can deal with that. I can deal with the Republican absolutely hating me and being very honest about it in my face. It's the woman that I decided to trust my life in that's going to stab me in the back that I'm more concerned about. And as things continue onward, we're going to see a lot more of our politicians not voting in the best interest of the people they're supposed to govern. Because politics in and of itself is a seasoned means of control and not necessarily a method of governance. So you run into these issues where you're constantly seeing these people only wanting to benefit their own selves to retain that power. And I mean, so many people tell me all the time, well, now we need a supermajority in the Senate in order to do this, that, and the third. Now we need the filibuster. Now we need this and that and the third thing. It's like, no, we gave you everything that you needed. You just need to go do that. They need to actually function, or they need to not be there anymore. They need to stop they're not serving us. They're not doing their contractual obligation to take care of the people. So
yeah, I think we just need to throw the politicians just throw out, you know what I mean, baby bathwater, all of it together. You know what I mean? That baby's dead. The baby's not there, you know what I mean?
No,
and so I like that. So, like, we need to throw all the politicians just out, because they're not, you know what I mean? I'm literally gonna work on a little YouTube video at some point in the next couple of weeks. It's going to be coming out talking about how AOC is the head popper from The Boys, you know what I mean, and how that's dead ass. They're on point with that, and you know what I mean. And the thing is these politicians, we got to realize it's going to be on us at the end of the day, and it does just start with a few of you. It could be you and one friend. Like, literally, my first beginning organizer, me, one friend. Literally, that's all it was. And then over time, you find ways to make stuff work, and then you meet other people and so on and so forth. But you start off with just you and a friend most of the times, you know what I mean? Yeah. Unless you're like in this upswing, but upswings aren't even the best time to get involved because a lot of times it's too wild to really set roots in if you haven't already started to build those roots and those foundations. So, you know.
Yeah, and that's a story we've heard again and again talking to organizers and activists around the world really on this show. It doesn't take a lot of people to get started. It doesn't take a ton of effort. You just got to be consistent and try. So like two quotes come to mind when we talk about this kind of stuff, like where to begin. First is Ho Chi Minh, who said, and I used to actually push back against this thought, but as I've learned more and talked to more folks, I realized Ho Chi Minh was very correct when he said, it's better to act and be wrong or incorrect or make a mistake than to not act at all. And what I realized is this pairs really well with the Fred Hampton quote, which is like, we learn through mistakes. So it's like, if you sit there and do nothing, you'll never learn anything and you'll never learn what works and what doesn't. But if you act, even if you misstep, you'll learn from that and you'll think, you'll find out, okay, well, this doesn't really work. I'll try something else. And that's basically, the reason we should call the show is the Dialectic. It's named after dialectical materialism, which is just basically the idea of learning through praxis and testing your theory against practice. And that's, really what we advocate for here. And that's why we ask you all to go out and just start organizing in your community. Find a problem. You could look into the mass line strategy where you just go and talk to people in your community, find out what problems they have in what they're worried about, what concerns they have, and then start addressing those problems. It's not that complicated. It's better. You have to make mistakes to move forward, as Fred Hampton said. So
absolutely, and there's no blanket solution to any of it either. So,
right, yeah. And also start by asking what you need. That's the first place you should start. What are the things you need and your friends need? Start there. You know what I mean? You know why I did the cop watch the first thing I did? Because I came and cops fucked with me all the time. And I know they fuck with everybody I knew. So cop watch. Logical, like first thing to do. You know what I mean? And so start where you're coming from first, because that's what you're gonna know best. And then you show solidarity with the people you meet along the way, which might be come from different spaces. You know what I mean? Like you might meet a convict like me, an ex-con like me, that's just like, yo, this shit's fucked up. Prison's fucked up, police is fucked up. They identify our communities as a problem, and then you build that network. But start from where you understand, because if you try to like do something that is so far outside of your realm, it's not the best place to start. I mean, not saying it's impossible to do, but it's taking the hardest path. Start exactly where you're at and the needs that you need to work on, that your community needs, or the communities around you or people you actually fuck with need. You know what I mean? And start there. And if they really don't need nothing, well then shit, you can start giving out dough like left and right and like traveling and meet everybody like here's dough, because you obviously have hella money if you don't have none of those problems that you can lay to. You know what I mean? So I bet most of y'all have those problems y'all can like start with. You know what I mean? So. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And just stop. I mean, you have to like, and this is like, it's ingrained in us from the beginning, especially if you're like white and you're from anything close to a middle class background. We're told over and over and over again, work within the system, vote. If you don't vote, you have no right to complain. I mean, it's like deeply, deeply programmed into us. And you just have to remember, like, not like just look back at history. Look at like just the last 20 years or so. Like I've seen it happen. I'm about 38 now. So since I graduated from high school, I mean, I saw Obama had a supermajority, as somebody in the comments mentioned, and could have done something about Roe versus Wade, back in, like the 2000s. Could have, done more to like, there's so many different strategies that were floated out there, but nothing happened. There was no work on, increasing the Supreme Court. There was no work on legislating, the Roe versus Wade language into legislation. There was just nothing happened under Obama. Biden has the quote unquote mandate now and is doing nothing. We cannot trust these people. And by the way, I don't really have any stock in like the Squad or Bernie Sanders or any of these like quote unquote progressives to do anything to help us anyway. They're really, like I said earlier, just acting to pacify and sheepdog and keep people from actually getting out and doing stuff on our own. So that's why we need to take the initiative. I know we probably sound like a broken record here, but sometimes it takes a little repetition and motivation to get folks up and out there doing stuff. So hopefully, we can kind of Go ahead, BB.
Oh wait, EJ, you mean you don't like that controlled opposition?
There's plenty of that. There's plenty of that. There's plenty of that online on Twitch and YouTube as well. It's not too hard to find those folks telling you things like organizing is a waste of time. I've seen that on Twitter from people who call themselves communists and anarchists who say that organization is like inherently hierarchical and nobody should ever organize and that sort of thing. That's all silly, for lack of a better term.
No, just no. Anarchism is consensual hierarchy. Jesus. Hierarchies always exist. It's consenting to who gets to actually help you guide through the process. Fucking read a book, people. Jesus.
Well, yeah, and it's like, I like the anarchism is order. Like if you look at the anarchism symbol where it's an A with an O around it, the O stands for order. And the idea is like if we don't, I mean, I talk about this a lot, but Joe Friedman, I believe, is the name of the person who came up with the idea of the tyranny of structurelessness, which is it's the idea that if you don't have any structures and if you don't have any organization, then it'll just be a hierarchy of personalities, and people will come into spaces and dominate based on it'll tend to be like white men, because we're the ones that are used to like having the center of attention and wielding power and that sort of thing, and having the forceful personalities, and that tends to push people to the sides to marginalize them, as it were.
Oh, doesn't that sound like a lot of the left too? I'm just saying.
Yes, that's what I've been trying to say for a long damn time.
Here's the thing is too, like even like for me, how I realized I was not just a communist, but I was an anarchist communist specifically, was because when I comprehended that direct democracy is in the day anarchist principle, right? Like in the end of the day, there's no hierarchies. It's direct decisions made by the people, and the people are the ones that make them, right? And it's painful. It is slow. It is frustrating, but it's better than what we fucking got.
Right.
Like,
absolutely.
Way better. It's probably the best. We are the debate is direct democracy for consensus, but a lack of organization is not it. In fact, sometimes even anarchists have too much bureaucratic stuff. And if you've been to Occupy back in the day, if you're old enough to have been through that, you know what the fuck I'm talking about. Point of process. Block. It's better than having a tyrant tell you and lead you down a path of destruction until they just walk you right off a cliff. So
I think it's really interesting too, because to be an anarchist and actually like sit down, like I vacillate between anarcho-feminism and anarcho-communism depending on what we're talking about, but it's basically all the same. But anyways, like my thing is like in order to know how to maliciously comply to the status quo, you have to be able to know exactly the letter of the law. So in order to be that nitpicky at times, you have to be able to know how to also structure things as well. So like you have to at some point in time know how things work organizationally. And I find that you either have the anarchists that are literally doing the trendy anarchist thing to do, which is like, break stuff, flip everyone off. And then you have the anarchists that are like, no, my friend, that is not what you need to be doing right now. Chill.
Okay. I got to push back a little bit. A lot of us are both of the things.
Right. No, trust me. I will break the things. Like, don't worry. I will break the things. I'm just saying, like, I will not break the valuable things. Like, I will not stomp somebody's garden. I will break a BMW's window, but I will not stomp the garden. You know what I'm saying? There's a difference. Like,
okay, but I'm not gonna lie though. There's some bougie gardens that I've done rated for all their food though. I'm not gonna lie. Okay.
Transplant it to where it needs to go in the community. That's also legit. I get it.
That's called seizing. Seizing. But yeah, no, I mean, ultimately, building movements is vital, but also being conscious of how we build our movements so that everyone has a voice as much as possible, so that we elevate the people who traditionally don't have a voice and empower them. And because the whole idea is that in the long run, like there's somebody in the Twitch chat right now who's trying to pretend that whiteness is real, and it's not. Whiteness is a ideological construct that just hurts everybody in the world. But like, dismantling whiteness in the long run will be good for people who are currently considered white. Like I've been realizing lately, and doing a little bit of exploring of because I was just back visiting my family, and had looked through some old letters and some old photographs and this sort of stuff, and realizing that first of all, I have this like Irish heritage that I've never really known much about, and it was basically my whole Irish identity has been just like robbed from me, and I've had whiteness delivered to me in its place. And there's other things that I know even less about, like my German heritage, and apparently I have some Eastern European heritage that I know nothing about. And all of this stuff was robbed from me. And by the way, whiteness was used to like Irish people used to be basically, there was a lot of community between black folks and Irish folks. And unfortunately, Irish folks in the USA basically turned their backs on the black community and bought into this whiteness system. And, there were a lot of like material benefits to that. But at the end of the day, it's really just empowered capitalism. It's empowered the systems that have been used to oppress my people and my family, for generations. It's like divide and conquer strategy. We talk about this all the time here, but dismantling these constructs like whiteness and these gender hierarchies and all these other hierarchies in the long run will be good for everybody. Everybody will benefit. Now, some people are going to have like a short-term temporary, it'll sting a little bit. You know what I mean? Like because as they say, if you have a lot of privilege, then having that privilege revoked will feel like oppression, right? Mm-hmm. But in the long run, we're all going to be a lot better off. And whether you agree with it or not, I do believe that is the direction humanity will continue to strive towards, and eventually we will win, and the working class will win, and white supremacists and the patriarchy and all this shit is going to go by the wayside. And you can decide right now what side of history you're going to be on.
Absolutely.
That's my message to you.
Do you want to hear a historical anecdote really quick? Yeah. Okay, so you're talking about Irish being really close because class-wise they were fighting alongside of and with a lot of people of the global majority in a lot of senses. Did you know that they actually created a political party that voted in the majority of the Southern after the Civil War? I can't remember what it was called. It was something like the Progress Party or something like that. After the Civil War, they created this political party that was for the people, by the people, and it was mostly, working class people of all races, creeds, nationalities, all of that stuff. And then they appealed to the Irish people with authoritarianism in the building of the police structure. And that's how they dismantled that political party. That actually was the closest thing to communism that this country has ever had before the 1970s. So
I do know what you're talking about. Actually, go ahead, BP. Go ahead, BP.
All about saying that was like what the Irish buy-in, right? Was that they become slave catchers, they become the overseer, and they become the police. So like that was how they became white. That was their buy-in to it. They had to stab everybody in the back, literally, to get to that point. They sold their soul, literally. When someone said they sold their soul, when you sell your identity, that's what whiteness is. This motherfucker sold their soul. And when I'm saying their soul, I'm not talking about like some weird Christian stuff. I'm talking about the identity of your people and who you are and exactly your background, where you came from, your roots, your culture. You sold all that to be able to buy into this whiteness and stab everybody else in the back for like a leg up. In fact, the Irish from Ireland, there was a whole letter that went to Irish here in the U.S. to say, no, you got to have solidarity with the black and indigenous. And they were like, well, if I got to be Irish or white, well, I'll be white. You know what I mean? So,
yeah. And it's really tragic, like for me now, like I don't have any of that. I don't have any of that connection. But I look at these old letters from folks, and like they, there was a time when we did have that cultural connection to Ireland. It's all gone now. It's all been obliterated in service to whiteness. And then the other thing is talk about this is like kind of an aside, but I encourage everybody to check this out. The history of comedy is really interesting. Mark Maron just did a really good interview with a historian of comedy. I'll look up the name in a minute, but basically the Irish like because the whole idea of the interview was that like cancel culture is nothing new. Like quote unquote, this whole idea of cancel culture is nothing new. And then anytime a marginalized community starts to step up and fight for their own rights and demand respect in the USA, then basically white dudes will like complain about what we now call cancel culture. And this goes back, it's been repeated like again and again and again, generation after generation. So like in the late 19th and early 20th century, Irish people were actually super radical about going to these like vaudeville comedy playhouses where they were doing like routines where they were making fun of Irish people. And the whole, that whole trope of throwing tomatoes at a comedian or throwing rotten eggs at a comedian, that comes from Irish people who would go to these playhouses, and if they made fun of Irish people and did like the Irish shtick, they would throw tomatoes and rotten eggs at them, and they would even like burn down playhouses and do even more radical stuff than that. And and there's an article from I think around 1909 in the early 20th century where somebody said, "Oh, if we can't make fun of Irish people, what's next? We'll have to stop doing blackface in comedy. It'll be the death of comedy." And it's like when you read and you hear these kinds of stories about that, it's like you realize that this culture war has been going on forever, and it happens, every generation when some marginalized group steps up and says, "I'm not going to be your laughingstock anymore. I'm done with this. I'm a human being and I deserve respect." Then all the privileged folks act like they're being oppressed because they have to like start recognizing humanity of other people.
This is a tangent, but it's related in spirit, right? So I'm just saying that shit's contagious because like there's this cat, I usually buck against people say like black men are the white men of black people. I'm like, that's cap. Like, I'm gonna be honest, that's 100% cap. That's ridiculous. But there was this one cat who literally, when I was talking about the truth about, because people were pushing that like anti-trans shit, about like saying, oh, it's abuse to like let children be trans, quote unquote, or whatever, and they were like saying it's irreversible, and I was like educating them, like, no, actually it's not. It's puberty blockers, you weirdo. Like, you don't know what you're talking about. And then, but they were like literally saying, they literally trans friend me, and I'm like, this is a black person. I'm like saying, oh, my trans friend said. I was like, first off, you don't have trans friends. You are lying. Just like when a fucking white person says I have a black friend, like, man. So the whole shit, and it's crazy because those soul things are coming from rooting from that same thing, that same history of people are consuming those same patterns and internalize them. The first one was the Irish, but now we even see black and brown Proud Boys and shit, and we see motherfucking just like literally digesting white supremacy. And that's why I always point out too, white supremacy and colonization isn't just. It definitely is focused and benefits white people, but it isn't just a white thing, unfortunately. I wish it was just a white thing. It'd be way easier to deal with if it didn't spread, but it's contagious. So, I don't know. I just wanted to share that because what you guys were saying reminded me of that. But
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Luna, my partner, she talks all the time about Annie Ngo and how Annie Ngo is a Vietnamese American, I think a gay Vietnamese American, who is like all in on the white supremacist patriarchal, train, So it's like, you don't have to be white to support and reinforce white supremacist power structures, that's for sure.
Oh, absolutely not. It's actually a tool that a lot of them use in order to be able to, like, a lot of times really big white supremacists will end up using the people who are in more marginalized groups as like a shield in order to continue their talking points as well. And then they bear the brunt of a lot of the harassment on both ends of that spectrum, and it's detrimental for them. And then they have to, like he said, sell out their soul. They sell their culture, they sell everything just to be able to be a talking point for whiteness, and it's horrible and sad, really, really sad.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's really. I mean, you can kind of. You could see it's a survival for a lot of folks.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, it's a survival strategy. It's like I'm sure that Annie Ngo, not to try to turn Annie Ngo into like a, pitiable victim or something like that, but I'm sure that Annie Ngo did face a lot of oppression and prejudice and that sort of thing, and then realized that, hey, if I side with the white supremacists, then like they'll stop, or they'll they won't stop, but they'll it relieves some of that pressure. I don't know. I mean, I it's hard for me to really empathize with that, but I can kind of sort of see where it stems from.
all I think about is like the overseer was just trying to survive. The slave catcher was just trying to survive. The police were just trying to survive. The fucking Nazi was just trying to survive. But that doesn't excuse your motherfucking actions, bro.
No.
Doesn't excuse any of that. And so that, I'm not saying you were saying that. I'm just like
Yeah.
that. You know what I mean?
No, I'm glad you said it because like it needs to be said for sure. Yeah. I guess it's more like explanation, but not excuse. You know, like sometimes you can explain things without necessarily excusing them.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, and I 100% agree with you. I just wanted to add that in there because I feel like, you know, it's just so easy if we don't say both those things that people are going to misinterpret, especially or even misclip shit to try to make it like.
Yeah. Of course. But I just remember like when I was young. So like I'm non-binary, and when I was young, something like when I was in high school, middle school, high school, I realized this is kind of like not the same thing, but I don't know. It's just something that happened in my life, which is that I was making like a lot of these like sexist jokes, and like the little boys that were around me would like laugh, and you know it gave me like kind of some social currency with them. And it wasn't until I got to college and I was around, you know, a lot of feminists and women that were basically like standing up and saying like, that's not funny and you're an asshole for doing that, that I, you know, was like corrected and stopped doing that kind of shit. But, you know, I guess it's important for us, I think, to understand how these social dynamics work so that we can offer other forms of releases and other forms of escape and better survival strategies for people. And I think that a lot of that has to do with empowering, especially young people who come from marginalized backgrounds, and giving them spaces and giving them productive avenues to stand up and fight against these power structures instead of like, you know, falling in line with them. And that's a complicated, you know, that's going to be a complicated project. But again, there are folks out there doing shit, building shit to empower these young people, and by the way, empowering white people as well to realize that they don't have to fucking reinforce or buy into this idea of whiteness to have you know, good, comfortable, productive, healthy life. In fact, it's a lot more healthy to realize that whiteness is false consciousness and actively fight against it, even if you are considered white in this fucked up society that we live in. So.
Yeah. If you're not an abolitionist at this point, you're fighting for the wrong side.
Exactly.
Yeah.
1000%. But it's hard to get that message across. I mean, because so many people, it's just like so, it sounds so weird to like so many people, to most people, the idea that whiteness isn't even real. I mean, like, that's such a big idea for so many people.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard to get people to come to grips with that. That's like it, but it's so important. It's such a basic thing, but it's also so hard to get people to see that. There's so much pushback and resistance from white people about that. It's really challenging. I found it extremely challenging, you know, especially in talking to some of my personal friends and family members and that sort of thing. It's very difficult to get people to like come on board to that idea.
It's because people don't know history, and then on top of it, they don't want to know. Like, so it's like, bro, you gotta like, and you try to explain to them, you gotta understand history, otherwise you don't understand now. They're like, that doesn't make sense. It was the past. I'm like, you know, the past is like if you have a road map and you're walking through, I'm not a road map, but if you have a map, you're walking through the forest or somewhere, and you're trying to understand where you came from. You need to be able to keep the map. But if you just throw the map away, forget where you are, just walk in circles, then you're gonna be lost, right? That's where you are, lost. But people just don't like. People don't want no history. I think history is. I mean, I'm not a history buff. I'm not a historian, but I'm someone who's always said like history is important to understand where we're at. If you don't understand what's happened to this point, you don't understand why we're here, and so you don't even understand what you're doing as a person because you're doing things that were shaped way before you were ever even born. You know what I mean? You're repeating patterns that were created way before any of us were ever born. Anybody living right now was ever born, even. So. And history is important, but I think, you know, I don't know. I think it might be easier outside of America because Americans are completely horrible at wanting to.
It understand. Is, but we export this shit too, though. Like, you know, I mean, the idea of whiteness has been exported to like a lot of different countries, and it's done a lot of damage, and even even in countries that are not predominantly white. There's all this from like media and Hollywood. I mean, look at all the indoctrination that Hollywood has kind of proliferated around the world to make white people the default heroes in the stories that we tell, and to make black people and people of color the default villains. I mean,
well,
there's a lot of damage.
In a fascist nation, the Ubermensch is the hero. That's why they have superheroes, all the Ubermensches. It's like, oh, no.
All right. Well, my friends, I have got to go lay down. It is past my bedtime.
I understand that. Do you want to pitch your TikTok real quick?
Oh yeah. So anybody who wants to find me, like, talk about this kind of stuff, this is my handle, Costume Whimsy.
Heck yeah, I'll share a link in the chat. But thank you for joining us, Connie. Get some rest, and we'll definitely have you back on very soon.
It was a pleasure to meet you, by the way.
Nice to meet you.
All right. I'll talk to everybody later.
Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye. All right, BP, just me and you. It's just me and you. It's been a long time since it's just been me and you.
That is true. It's been a minute. I mean, I think, like, I was literally in person with you.
Yeah, that's the last time. That's the last time we were both on stream together at the same time, was when we were sitting side by side. Well, it is. It's good. It's like it's coming back to me. It's all coming back to me. This whole streaming thing. It's been a little rough the last few times I streamed, but I'm feeling it again. So, I mean, I guess we got about 49 minutes left by my clock. Real quick to let everybody know, once again, this show is moving to Overthrow Media. That's always been the plan from the beginning. The whole idea was to kind of build up a little bit of an audience and then move the show over to Overthrow Media as BP's channel kind of came into its own, and we feel like it's getting to that point now. So if you want to keep watching the show moving forward, be sure to subscribe at youtube.com/c/overthrow media. I'll drop that link in just a moment. But also, remember that all the donos, all the super chats and donations for this show go to BP. BP's been traveling around across the country, doing a lot of important work with Fight Toxic Prisons and organizing with other orgs out there. So if you have a couple of bucks to donate or send a super chat, we would really appreciate that, and it would help BP a lot. Do you have any updates on your traveling and all that, BP? What's going on now?
Screwed.
Yeah.
So, like, the license thing, they're like a month and a half behind on paperwork. So I don't know what in the fuck is gonna actually process any of the paperwork I've sent in. I had emailed and everything else. I don't know, man. I might even I don't want to do it, but if all fails, eventually I might have to fly to Washington and just be like, the fuck y'all, fix this damn shit. You know what I mean?
I mean, I just am so shocked that, like, I mean, these are very basic fucking services. These are like basic fucking services, like that the state of the USA, the wealthiest nation on earth, cannot provide to its citizens. I don't get it.
I mean,
I get it. I understand it. It's just
they don't want to. Not that they can't. They don't want to. They were sure quick to send the ticket I already paid as unpaid to Washington State to then get my license suspended on some bogus shit in the first place. Also, do you know another fun part? So
what's that?
When I got a little bit in the GoFundMe, I got up to $1,500. I went to go buy the computer. It got sent to the wrong address. I had Amazon try to get it forward to the right address, and they couldn't do that, so they were supposed to give me a refund. They never did, right? So they just took like fucking $1,300, and so I went to my bank, and I went to my bank fucking go for them, and then my bank said when I talked to them, I told them I'm traveling. We'll be like, oh no, we got everything. You don't need to sign on paper or nothing. Well, a month later, which was about a week and a half ago, they reversed the credit they had given me because of unfilled out paperwork, right? So like I'm like now 1,000 under because it took like 1,300. I only had like 300 at the time, 1,300 out of my bank account, so I'm like negative 1,000. And this is America. This is capitalism for you. Just want to put this out there. So on top of being negative 1,000, I'm like, okay. So I call back. And then like, oh, the unfilled paperwork, whoop, and then they're supposed to call me back 2 days later from somebody you can't call is supposed to call me. They didn't call me back. Called him again. Same thing happened. Didn't call me back. Told me I could go to the bank. Apparently that wasn't true. Going to the bank isn't going to help because they don't have the power or something at the bank to do that. And then so now I'm waiting. It's supposed to happen. They get reimbursed in 7 to 10 business days, which is 2 weeks again. And I'm going to be in the negative at least for 2 weeks. Are
they doing that shit where they like are fining you every day? Because that's happened to me a couple times.
I don't
go negative
think so, but they're gonna have to reverse it anyways because they reversed this. I forget the name of it. It's like when they give you a credit for what, and they're gonna go get back from Amazon. So they reversed that for a lack of filled out paperwork. And here's the ironic thing: is this time when they reversed, they're fixing it again in the 7 to 10 days. I'm trying to get them to have someone call me so they can speed up the process, right? Which is not happening clearly. But they told me the same BS again that I don't need to sign paperwork. I was like, I don't believe you guys this time. Like you told me the first time, and I'm in this situation because I said this is America. So I got both those things going on at the same time.
Oh yeah.
But my YouTube's starting to pop.
Yeah.
Like I literally am gonna pretty much. I might have already gained 1,000 subscribers in this last month since I hit 3,000. I'm about to be at 4,000,
so awesome.
Which is like wow. I mean, also because of. Shout out to FD. And yeah, I saw your message, FD, if you're still watching, but I just was a lot of stuff was going on. But shout out to FD, like plugging me a whole bunch of times. And everybody seems to think this next video, they've seen a little 14-minute preview, think that it's super fire. So yeah, it's gonna be a long one. Like I said, 35 to 40 minutes is how long it's gonna be, y'all. So
it's a fucking documentary, baby. It's the real deal. I mean, just to let you know, though, like, I don't know. I hope this doesn't piss you off too much, BP. But like, so how long have you been dealing with this ID bullshit? This driver's license bullshit.
License, it's like 2 or 3 months now at this point. It's ridiculous. 2
or 3 months, right? And still not resolved. Now, I, as a foreigner in Vietnam, just applied for a new license in Vietnam about a week ago, and it's ready for pickup now. So, as a foreigner in Vietnam, I was able to get my shit settled in a week, whereas it's taken like several months, and BP still doesn't have any resolution. So, I mean, it's like BP said, it's not that they can't do it; it's that they just won't. They're not interested in it. It's another vector of control.
Just bureaucracy, like, oh, we're behind the paperwork. They don't care. Like, yo, y'all weren't supposed to take my license in the first place. The shit was paid. I paid the ticket. And now I can't even get paid the fucking thing to get my shit reissued until the paperwork's process that you're taking like 2-3 months to process. It's fucking crazy. It's wild.
Me suggests that it helps to record names and time and date each person and what each person told you. Another thing I've noticed is that if you ask people to, like, this is just like general working with banks and corporations and the government and shit. If anybody ever tells you something that sounds like bullshit, ask for it in writing, and like about half the time they will like change their tune because they don't want to give you something in writing that is bullshit with their name on it. So that's just another little hot tip, I guess, if you ever have problems with bureaucracy and shit.
Okay, that's what doesn't work. So. I'm doing that with the licensing when I call them on, and I'm like, why the fuck is not there? Oh, we're behind. Like, can I get that in writing, please? Like, I'll be on them.
See what they say.
Because I have proof, like I told him, I should straight up, like I have proof that you got the email, like because after having the fax to him, I was like, then I had an email, but I had him CC me on it, so I'm like, you can't tell me you don't have it, like I know you have it, like I have the CC right here, so like,
right,
but they're still just bullshit, like, oh, we're like a month and a half behind. I'm like, what, bro? All you got to do is just like it's paperwork, man. Sit down. So down, do your thing. Hire one other person, and you're month and a half behind. You can fix in like 3 days with one other person. It's fucking emails, man.
It's funny how they're so behind on that shit, but they can get like $40 billion for the military-industrial complex out in an instant, or they can they're never backed up in like fucking putting people behind bars or getting guns and tanks and shit in the hands of cops. They're always very efficient for some reason at building the military-industrial complex and the police state and that sort of thing. That's where they're suddenly really quick to act. I don't know why that is.
Or suspending your shit, but not reissuing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
right.
it would
They'll
be weird
suspend you
because
immediately.
don't you want the money? Don't you want the money? I want to give you money. All you do is process paperwork, and I'll give you money, so I get my shit back, even though I consider it extortion. But hey, but nah, bureaucracy. I love it. This is America for you.
Oh, we got it. Wait, Streamlabs. I mean, did you donate on Streamlabs? Because we haven't used Streamlabs in a long time, unless you're. I'm not sure what you're asking there. We use Stream Elements now. If you found a Streamlabs link, it came through, but I'll have to go and find that. I'm just a little confused about that. But anyway, yeah, if you want to donate to the stream, streamelements.com/noncompete/tip, that'll go directly to BP's PayPal, and you can help BP while this frustrating fucking situation unfolds. Let's see. Oh, Anilu Chan said, I had bank fraud happen to me on Thursday. My Union Bank took less than a day to give me a new card and number. Well, that's why the union makes us strong. I've had. Oh wait, here we go. We got anonymous donation, folks. Anonymous donation. Anonymous says, PSA class by Master Herbalist. Sanctumofthecraft.org. Okay, it's a link. I'll check this out. Gave this a couple weeks ago, but it's worth sharing again. Okay, a master herbalist. Well, I'm hopefully Luna and I will be starting a farm soon. We're about to move in like October, November, and we're hoping to move out to the countryside and start teaching y'all how to farm. And Luna's going to make a medicinal garden. So this is right up my alley and Luna's alley. So I'll share that link out. Thank you for the donation, Anonymous, and I'll check that out myself too. It's like we were saying earlier. Part of building dual power structures is not only do we need to all be taking command of our own infrastructure in terms of like organizing our communities, that sort of thing, we need to be growing food. And I also think that as the fucking system continues to collapse, I mean, we see that like the state is not able to provide even a fucking driver's license to VP. I think learning about like the medicinal plants in your area and that sort of thing is not such a bad idea. And learning how to grow your own medicine and your own basic supplies like that will become increasingly relevant to all of our lives. By the way, thank you, Alex, so much for the donation of $20. Who said Alex said solidarity, comrades. So thank you so much. We really appreciate that. Yeah, awesome crowd tonight.
Yeah, man.
And we're moving into the last about half hour or so. So if anybody has any questions or comments and you want, or any topics you want us to discuss, just let us know. We kind of got through the bulk of the primary topics we wanted to get through, but of course there's always more to talk about. And by the way, hold on, I missed it. Where did it? Oh yeah, Limahana. Limahana is in the crowd. Said aloha back to you. Big ups back to you. And Limahana said, bouncing off what was said earlier, the military utilizes the poverty. Yes. Okay. Somebody in the chat mentioned this. I can't remember who, but they said when we were talking about how the state can't provide these basic services, it's like, yeah, because no one would join the military if they provided these basic services. And that's what Limahana is talking about here. The military utilizes the poverty draft, targeting impoverished youth, making false promises then to sign their lives away. And then the other thing is, for a lot of people, the only way to get access to things like healthcare, the only realistic way to access those things is by joining the military. I know for a fact, the only reason I had healthcare growing up as a kid is because we were a Navy family, and that is what allowed our family to provide, things like dental and healthcare and that sort of thing. So, yeah, poverty draft is a real thing, and they do target. It's been proven. I mean, it's not even close to being like controversial. I mean, they target black folks, they target marginalized people, they target the poor, and they push people into the situation where there are very few other options, and that becomes the incentive to push people into our massive military industrial complex. So,
right. Yeah, every option is a better option. I'm just gonna say that, man.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I'm not saying. I mean, the trade-offs are obscene, especially as we're going into this like increasingly unstable world where Joe Biden is like saber rattling as much as he can to try to bring us into World War III. I certainly wouldn't want to be joining the military right now, but I will say, like, I there are 3 times in my life 3 different periods of my life where I felt like I didn't have any other options, and I was talking to recruiters and, you know, getting prepared, and I took the fucking tests for the Navy and all that kind of stuff. I almost joined the Army at one point in my life because I was, you know, basically out of desperation. So, I mean, certainly I've been there before. I've had that. Fortunately, I, you know, found other opportunities, which not everybody is able to do that. But yeah, I definitely don't recommend you join the military. But before I became class conscious, I almost did myself.
So what I'll say is I have 2 brothers that are on my white side, right? Both of them went to the military, and one of my cousins. And what I will say is, though they would probably argue differently, I went to prison, and I made a better choice. That's what I'm gonna say. I mean, I'd rather be in I'm not advocating anybody to commit crimes, but I'd rather be in the streets than sell my soul to go kill other brown and black people across the fucking world for somebody who hates me on top of that. Even if it's someone who loves me, fuck that. But someone who hates me on top of that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
not only that, but they will chew you up and spit you out. I mean, just look at the number of, you know, people who take their own lives, we'll say, so we don't get completely demonetized. The number of people who have had their minds and or bodies severely disabled, the trauma, all that kind of stuff, and they just get discarded, thrown out like trash. And there's countless examples out there. So the link that I gave doesn't work. What link did I? Which link is that? And let me know which link that is. Not sure why. What do you think of my comment on doomerism above? Let me see if I can find it. Hold on. Okay. I think that doomerism is based on false consciousness, the belief that our struggle is all or nothing. To not have total success is to have a total loss. In reality, there's a lot of gray area. Oh, I love that point about it's like if you don't yeah, okay. So the best way I've seen this described is basically looking at revolution as like a millennial cult, a doomsday cult. So it's like a lot of fucking leftists, especially in the West, in the USA, they like to think about after the revolution, right? After the revolution, things are going to be so much better. After the revolution, we're going to have this wonderful utopia, blah, 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 not realizing that the revolution's happening right now. So instead of standing up and fighting right now to participate in the revolution that's ongoing, people sort of slip into this state of mind where they just fantasize about the quote-unquote post-revolutionary world. And the revolution is going to go on for generations. Like, we're not going to see the end of all these systems of oppression, the total end in our lifetimes. You know, it's going to take generations to dismantle all this shit. I mean, like, it's taking me years just to, like, deprogram my mind from all the indoctrination I've had, and I'm just one person. I mean, systemically, socially speaking, it's a lot of work. Now, that isn't me being a doomer. I'm saying we can do things right now to accelerate that and keep the ball and get the ball rolling. You know, what do you think about that, BP?
I mean, I think I am a lot more Fanonian with the definition of revolution. I think a lot of people have revolution for the whole process of like transforming who we are as a people, species, creature, whatever. Like, but I think in reality, revolution is just the act of overturning a system, trying to pick words widely, overturning a system that we decide is corrupt. Revolution doesn't mean because after revolution we're in utopia. I think that's the misnomer that I feel like is really the American idealism of like this, like people coming like, oh, we'll just be like almost kind of Christian, like after revolution, like, you know, after the rapture we'll be in heaven. Like, nigga, shut up, bro. Like, nah, that's not how it works. We do it and then we pick up the pieces, or we might be able to build it at the same time, but at the end of the day we're still going to pick up a lot of pieces after a revolution. After, if a revolution, like a serious revolution happens, there's going to be a lot of broken pieces to pick up, you know what I mean? And that's just going to be real. That's part of it, right? And then we rebuild, then we got to rebuild from there. And I think those are different processes. Those aren't all just the revolution. Those are different processes. And then I think what really a revolution does is it gets the heel of the current oppressor off us. And then we have the point to try to make directions to either go forwards towards a world that is going to be better, or regress into like despots who fight to just have a piece of a bigger piece of the pie. Right, so it's going to be on us. That's where I feel like that's his own process. I think we should, try to start it now, sort of like educate it now, try to be like, okay, these are ramifications of these things and all that. But I think when I think of revolution, I think of it just the tangible overthrowing part. And then, because even if we do completely educate it, let's be a buck. Like, we can't necessarily know how things are going to roll out because it's so on the other side of the storm that we can't see what the other side of the storm is going to actually look like, no matter how much we prepare for it. I'm not saying we shouldn't prepare for it, by the way. That's not what I'm saying when I'm saying that. But just to be like, so that's my standpoint. I don't see the revolution in this big magical rainbow thing versus I see the revolution as actually a very rough struggle that we will lose a lot of loved ones in, but it's something that is have any loved ones left, and that's how I feel about it. I know that sounds really depressing. But I'm just also, as much as I like to think of the happy shit, I'm also a realist. I'm like, yeah, it's not going to just be peaches and creams. Like,
I think it's dangerous to have that idea out there that, like, okay, we'll have a revolution and then after that it's going to be perfect. Like, that's a really, really misguided ideology to be putting out there, because, like, when we do have struggles after, whatever they would consider the revolution to be, when we do have problems and everything doesn't go perfectly smoothly, people are going to, like, want to give the fuck up, like, immediately, because it's like they won't be in for that longer struggle that is going to be progressing, for years and years and generations to come. Like, we have to recognize it's going to be very difficult. Like, okay, let's say we overthrow capitalism and white supremacy and all this shit. Now we have to build a whole new society. Like, that's going to be fucking difficult. We're going to make all kinds of mistakes. It's going to be a real struggle. We're going to make a lot of mistakes. A lot of people are going to get hurt. I mean, that's like the nature of life. Life is struggle. And we have to fucking make a lot of mistakes to learn. Like Fred Hampton, like, just to go back to Fred Hampton there.
And the thing is, we got to acknowledge, and I think we really got to know that people will get hurt. People we care about will get hurt. But here's the thing. They're getting hurt either way. That's the reality. Exactly. I always try to emphasize people. Like, I'm not trying to be a doomer about it, but this is going to happen either way. And it's going to be worse. It's going to be much, 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 much worse if we just let these people who are controlling shit right now be the ones that dictate our future. Like I said, I'm picking my words very carefully right now.
Oh, yeah.
But let them dictate our. If we let that happen, the worst possible outcome is what's going to happen. You know what I mean? Which is human extinction. Not just human, mammal extinction. Probably all the insects too. So
yeah, no joke. Yeah, I mean, one thing that I've learned from the Vietnamese communists that I've been talking to over here is that they have a very long view of history and the future. And, like, like, I always thought when I, like, before I came to live here, I thought of the Vietnam Revolution must have been, like, I guess around 1950 to 1975 when they were, like, fighting the French and the Americans. But, like, they don't see it that way at all. For them, the revolution began, like, in the 19th century, basically from the very moment that the French started occupying their land, and it's continuing today. And, like, the hardest struggles, some of the hardest struggles that they've been having have happened after the armed revolution and the fighting stopped and they had to start building a society. I mean, Luna has a lot of videos on her channel talking about that history of, like, the post-1975 aspects of the Vietnam Revolution and, like, trying to build communism and having all these problems where, the USA, the World Bank, IMF, all these institutions are, like, actively fighting against them. It's just, there's a lot more to it than just getting out the guns and overthrowing the oppressor. Then you have to, like, build a world after that, and that's a lot of work.
Same thing with us as Black people. We're talking about, especially hood Black folks, the genocide. Like, the genocide, like, we're in a genocide. It never ended, and it didn't just start. Like, it's been going for hundreds and hundreds of years, and it's just like, what I mean. Same thing with this people. Both of our peoples are in the midst of a genocide that's been happening for hundreds of years. I know everybody likes to look at the Nazis that did it really fast, but that's what I mean. Not how
they were inspired by the USA's genocide, and Manifest Destiny and all that.
And they honestly just pushed it too hard. And it wasn't because of them killing Jewish people that pushed it too hard. It's because they pushed on all fronts and they were trying to, like, kill everybody pretty much. Like, if you ain't down with us, we're taking you out. Like, and that was just too much. But they try to compound hundreds of years of history. But this is hundreds of years of genocide that's been happening with the highest body count that's ever happened on the world. Like, the U.S. highest body. I always want to emphasize the highest body count in human history. The highest by far. Not even, like, not even close. More than Rome.
Yeah.
How long was Rome existed? More than Rome. highest body count ever, and it's a baby nation. So,
and that's why that's another reason you don't join the military, because you don't want to be part of that horrible history. Lee Mahana, our Indigenous Hawaiian comrade, says, question EJ and BP or BV. Some foresee Trump, Pompeo, neo-fascists will win the 2024 elections, and far-right Republicans take over the midterms. Do you foresee this and the exacerbation of fascism near? And to be clear, I do believe the Dems aren't any different, be perhaps less far-right in some aspects, but both are liberal fascists. You want to take a swing at this first, BP? Any predictions about the election, or?
So here's how I think I'll just give a quick explanation of how I view presidents. So presidents do not have power. They do not make decisions. They are pawns to the people who finance them. They're just like all these other fucking politicians. So for me, it could be right wing. It depends on how we act, honestly. How as a society maneuver and function. If they feel like it behooves them to put a Republican in, and that's what people are going to respond to in the way they want the people to respond, that's who they're going to put in. If they feel like their response is going to be better off to put a Democrat in, that's who they're going to put in. And I really believe in selection. Not we don't actually elect these people in the same way. I think there's, you know what I mean? I think it's like, which one are you going to pick? Who gets the most funding? Who gets the most support? Or in Trump's case, who gets the most free publicity? So I think these things, when I see it, I don't usually honestly put much investment in which side wins. Like when people were crying that Trump won, I was laughing, not because I was excited that Trump won or anything, but because I thought it was ridiculously hilarious that this is real life. I was like, oh my God, this is idiocracy. And it really is idiocracy, except we don't have a black idiot, we have a white idiot. So idiocracy would have been a little bit cooler, because at least there would have been like an ex-wrestler that actually was buff, instead of like people who had to reshape to make him look buff, even though he'd never looked like that, you know what I mean? But I know you guys know the cartoon I'm talking about, but you know.
No, I know what you're talking about.
Right, we were talking about like,
oh my God, there were some really creepy, like there's like a whole genre of creepy internet art of Donald Trump, like pornographic Donald Trump art. I know exactly what you're talking about. So I think,
just to finish what I was saying is, I think it's on us. I think depending on if the right makes more of an insurgency, then probably the right makes more of a push and more vocal, and we are really just sitting here like twiddling our fingers, then they'll probably put a Republican in. If we're like pushing back really hard because of Roe v. Wade, because of all the transphobic things, they might put a Democrat in. But I think it's really going to put on who's going to calm the people down and who's going to push it towards the way they want to. Or if they don't want us calm, then who's going to like incite it in the way they want to incite shit. And so it depends on that. And it really depends on those people who control the oil resources, control all the resources that make this country run. That's who's going to decide it, in my opinion. And and I stand on that strong. I'm convinced of that. I don't believe in really we elect. So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I guess just right out of the gate, I want to say I stopped trying to predict I stopped trying to predict shit right around the time I became a communist, I guess, anarcho-communist, because I would never have guessed that fucking Donald Trump would have been elected president to begin with. So I obviously and I've been wrong many times in trying to make predictions. I mean, as far as outcomes of elections and that sort of thing, you never know what machination. The one thing that's really important to remember is that we have very limited optics on what's going on, really, because so many of the people that are stakeholders and decision makers and that kind of shit are doing things behind the scenes that we have no idea about. You know what I mean? I would never have thought that Biden was going to become the pick for the primary, back in 2019. I mean, looking back, it's obvious. Hindsight's 2020 and all that. And maybe some people who were way more boned up on electoral politics in the USA would have seen it coming, but it surprised me. I mean, I didn't know who it was going to be, but I really didn't think it was going to be Biden. But again, looking back, it's pretty obvious now. But I guess what I would like to say is just a lot of us seem to feel we have a handle on the situation, or we know what's going on with this kind of shit. And like geopolitics is like maybe even like an order of magnitude more removed from what we see and what we could possibly know, because like we really don't know what's happening, like with the situation in Ukraine, and there's like so much stuff that we act all confident like we know what the fuck's going on, but like I don't know. I guess I feel like a lot of people, we feel like we know more than we really do because there's all this shit happening, behind the scenes, but also we feel like our opinion matters more than it really does, when at the current time we do not have the power accumulated for our movement to really have much impact with things like national elections and geopolitics and that sort of thing. So so I guess I try not to focus so much on like maybe what the outcome of the 2023-24 election will be, and more on like what do we do to build power between now and 2023-2024, so we're in a better situation to maybe have a little bit more influence on what does happen, rather than sit here and try to predict what the liberals and the fascists are going to do. I feel like we should be building our movement so that instead of just trying to predict and guess what other people will do as people with no agency, we develop agency for ourselves and for our movement. Does that make sense? I guess that's kind of the wag the dog answer I have there. Go ahead, BB.
So I've already put out my eggs, and I'm gonna let them sit for the next couple of years. And whoever's celebrating at the end of the next election, I'm just egging them. I don't care which side. Just egging them. Just egging the crap out of them. You know what I mean? Just it don't matter.
Those are the eggs that you can count before they hatch. The rotten eggs that you're going to throw. In the spirit of our radical Irish ancestors. Oh, by the way, Barnabas P. Jones, thank you so much for the $50 donation. That's very, very kind of you. And with the message, good luck, BP. We really appreciate you. Thhank you so much.
Man,
I'm just checking through the chat here.
I was saying one thing too, real quick about this. It's actually funny because when Trump got elected, is literally the only time I've been wrong when I'd make predictions. I was like, the what? That's why I was laughing so hard. I was like, bro, who really? The clown got elected. Oh,
I remember like the moment. So when that election happened in 2015, I guess, I was in Vietnam and it was like lunchtime for me as the election results were pouring in, and I remember eating a sandwich while I was looking at Facebook, and like I have a lot of liberal friends on Facebook, and I remember it was like I guess like 10-11 a.m. my time, like right around now, which would have been like the evening, and all my liberal friends were like, haha, look, it looks like Trump's gotten a lot of votes. Wouldn't it be hilarious? Like, oh my God, he couldn't possibly win, could he? And then at some point around midnight or something, my feed just went silent for like 10 minutes while everyone was processing it. And then it was just like, what the fuck? What is going on? This can't be real. This can't be happening. There was like so much denial, right in that immediate, during the actual election as the results were pouring in. And I remember just being like, oh God, like it really, I was taken aback too. I mean, it's not that I like Hillary Clinton or anything like that, but I was just shocked that she didn't win, really, I guess.
I mean, I still stand on that. My stance is Hillary Clinton would have been much, much worse for black people. But the thing is, one of those things, might as well, I don't have a dog in that race. I'm like, I'm supposed to pick one of these two fucking idiots? Nah, bro. Like that's kind of how I view that shit. So I wasn't like heartbroken or nothing. Like I was actually really annoyed though. All the like white women crying. Oh my God, this thing. Like, are you serious? You serious? This is what breaks your shit right now? Like, damn. As niggas, as black folks, that shit's ridiculous. But at the end of the day, like it's like one of those things. But no, I don't know. It was wild because nobody believed it, and then people were crying. I don't know if it was like that other places, but like literally there was groups of like people, liberals, crying in the streets about fucking Trump winning. I was like, are you guys kidding me right now? Like, what? I was like, that's what sets you off? This fucking idiot winning? Okay. Well, I think you're out of touch with the rest of what goes on in America.
I was definitely out of touch. I was 100% out of touch. Just to be candid, I mean, like that was kind of the eye opener for me, really, and it made me stop and investigate because I was like, okay, if I was wrong about this, as much as like, and I wasn't just wrong, I was like really, really wrong. And I was like, if I was wrong about this, like, I basically don't know anything. And that was where I was just like, okay, I'm starting over from scratch. I'm just going to assume that I know nothing at all, and I started all over again. And that's when I started, checking out more radical leftist perspectives and, reading everything I could from like anarchists and communists and mutualists and all these different perspectives. And that's kind of what led me to where I am today, because I just realized, like, okay, because before Trump got elected, I was just basically a garden variety kind of liberal centrist patriot, and I was like, okay, our system's not perfect, but it's the best we have, and blah 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 blah. I had all that fucking garbage perspective. So yeah, I was basically BP, exactly who you're talking about, like the out of touch, fucking liberal, learning a hard lesson. Yeah,
I was 9 years into already like on the ground organizing, and I was like probably 11, 12 years into like my political education. You know what I mean? So like for me, it was like, and that's what also was like so mad about it. So I was like, what's this fool really gonna do? It's really wild because I not trying to roast you specifically, but like everybody,
you could roast me. I deserve it.
I always get frustrated. Everybody's like, I got woke by Trump. I'm like, really? I didn't realize what was going on before this. Like, I mean, goddamn, like, shit, like, this has been bad, bro. It's been bad. It was a bad when Obama was there. God damn it. Like, fuck, like before Obama, and this is the only one good thing Obama did. Fuck Obama still, but one thing good Obama did, I guess, kind of. It's like kind of good. Like, he reduced a little bit of harm. But before, it was like 101 crack laws and shit. Motherfucking my whole neighborhood was getting swept up. But Trump is what's got y'all fucked up. God damn. Like, we not see. I mean, so that kind of blew my mind a little bit, with everybody being like, got radicalized by Trump. And I'm like, what?
Well, it's like that. That's just how heavy the indoctrination is. Because, I mean, well, Sam's with me here. Sam said, me too. I was pushing anarchism largely because of Trump's win, for some reasons for you. And by the way, everybody should subscribe to Anarchy69 on Twitch if you want to check out some amazing deep dives into history from an actual historian about a lot of working class history, anarchist history. But like the indoctrination is so deep that I didn't even realize, like when I look back, right? Like the fact that I didn't have health care at all. I had no access to health care basically for like all through my 20s. And I never saw that as a big fucking huge problem until, I think, part of it's because, people tend to be healthier in our 20s, and I didn't really have a lot of major health problems in my 20s until I was like in my late 20s, and I had a really bad ear infection, and I just could not get it, looked at, and I couldn't get medicine for it, and I got extremely sick. I lost hearing, and could have died, and just very narrowly, I finally got to go to a free clinic. I remember doing the paperwork when I was like extremely like feverish and exhausted and had been sick for weeks, and I remember just like filling out all this forms and like having to find my tax information and shit while I was like literally potentially on death's door, right? That's how bad it was. And, even then it took years to process that and realize how fucked up that was. You know what I mean? And that's just one aspect of the oppression that that most people face in the USA, right? So, I mean, the indoctrination is just so deep. I remember like, even though I realized at that time that the healthcare system sucked, I believed all this shit that I heard on like the radio and on TV and shit about how, it might not be perfect in the USA, but we have the best healthcare system in the world, and every other country in the world looks to us as, that's what I was and I was just like, well, they're on the news. That's a news reporter. They can't lie on the TV, I was just so naive and indoctrinated. I mean, it's just amazing how deep the fucking programming can go. Especially for us white folks who grow up in like kind of a suburbia kind of existence. It's embarrassing to admit that, but that's definitely the experience I had.
It just always blow my mind, like everybody like that was a big catalyst for them. I was like, because I never, for me, it's like, that would have never been it. for me. Like there's not even a point, even when I was like apolitical, that would have never been it. A presidential election, I was like, psh,
Yeah.
like I already saw it. Like even when before I was political, I knew that shit was a joke. I was like, this is stupid. Like that,
Yeah.
like I mean, I never bought into the whole thing because.
Well, you had a much different, obviously, interface with the system. You know what I mean?
I mean,
like,
yeah, but there's other black folks were the same way. And I'm not put them on the spot.
Yeah.
There are black folks
Sure.
I fuck with that are like were radicalized by fucking Trump, and I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
what? So it's not just you. It's for me. It never was.
Yeah.
I kind of like never took politicians seriously ever. Like I don't care if you're talking about
Yeah.
president. I don't care if you're talking about man. Like it's a fucking joke. They ain't real. They ain't like. I mean,
Yeah.
man, I just always.
Well, see, but I had that same sort of. I guess it wasn't essentially the same, but I did also. I went through years where I was like, and this was when I was mostly when I was in Korea and like my first year or two in Vietnam, and I was like, oh, both sides are dumb as hell, and I don't want anything to do with the liberals or the conservatives, the Republicans and the Democrats both suck, and I became basically apolitical because of that. So I mean, like, and it was like, and that was another shitty road that I walked for a while. So you know, I mean, it just took me a long time to to get to where I should have been.
That's my favorite people to try to build with. They are as apolitical people. Be real with you,
Mm-hmm.
the open to fucking shit and the most skeptical at the same time. And I love that. Open and skeptical. They're like, I'm not gonna just believe you, but if you can show me, I guess. But you know, I mean, it's just getting them to be down to talk about politics, but it's connecting it to people's everyday life. That's how you talk about it. And then also electoral politics is not how you do that because it's not like nobody is like especially apolitical people. Because the thing is, like a lot of people, like you probably saw, you see it's just bullshit. You're like, man, this is all bullshit. And then me especially, I was like a scapegoat, and I guess scapegoats are big. We're big, like you know, like we talk about like a narcissist family structure. I was a scapegoat, right? So I was a black sheep, scapegoat, whatever. Apparently, we're really good red flag detectors, which tracks because I can look at someone like, I don't fuck with that nigga. Some up, you know what I mean? Like, and I'll be right a lot. Like I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not tripping. Like, but I think that also applied to like politics, right? I'm like, yeah, they're full. All these motherfuckers are snakes. Like, you know what I mean? The way they move, everything they say is fucking lies. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I can see that shit. Like, you know what I mean? I look at politicians all the time. Like, you're just lying. Like, and ever since I was a little kid, I've been able to notice that. Like, you're lying. You're fucking lying. Like right now. I don't know what you're lying about because I've been like 7 years old. I don't know what the fuck you're lying about, but you lying. I can tell you lying, but I don't know what you're lying about yet. And I get older, like, oh, that's what you were lying about. That's what these motherfuckers have been lying about. Okay, I get it now. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just I'm glad that eventually we both were able to turn that into a productive, more productive energy than what I had at least when I was just completely withdrawn and trying to bury my head in the sand. Matthew Stone, real quick. Yeah, I would love for you to email me about the Irish comedy documentary for sure. And the failed 1916 uprising. Yeah, that sounds right up my alley, especially after what I've been reading lately. So yeah, definitely send that my way. Limahana said, like Lenin said, every few years we choose from the explorer class who will represent us, which kind of ties in with what BP was just saying. Like, it's funny how they always come from the same class, these lying politicians. Sorry, I'm just catching up on the chat. There's a lot to run through here. What caused you to stop being apolitical? Well, I mean, I guess I hate to say it, but Donald Trump getting elected. I mean, I became pretty liberal because of my experiences in Korea with getting healthcare for the first time, where I could for the first time since I was a child with my dad's Navy healthcare, but yeah, like when I went to Korea, I realized they have like public transportation, they have public health care, they have like all this shit that the USA doesn't have, and USA is supposed to be the best country in the world. And that kind of made me a liberal, but I wasn't like super active. And then I guess the Bernie Sanders, backing it up, it wasn't really Trump, actually. It was Bernie Sanders. I got to admit, I was a Bernie bro in like 2015. And Bernie Sanders was the first person I saw that started to talk about how capitalism causes all these problems. Now, obviously, I have outgrown Bernie Sanders quite a lot since then. But Bernie Sanders was the first person that I personally saw stand up and talk about this stuff publicly and talk about things like socialism. of course, it was like a very watered down milquetoast version of socialism. But it just got me thinking and realizing that all these problems happen. One thing that I saw was this YouTube video, and I could probably find the link here in a minute, but it was this YouTube video, and it just talked about wealth inequality, and it was like an infographic thing. And it showed like, okay, here's how much money like 50% of people make, and it's like tiny little stack of dollar bills. And like, this is how much like the top, 10% make, and it's like a pretty big. And then it's like, okay, this is how much the top 1% makes. And it was just like off the fucking screen, it was like so big. And that was the first time I really, really realized how fucking stacked the deck was. And then when I watched Hillary like basically fuck over Bernie in 2015, all that stuff started to kind of like swirl around in my mind, and I started to realize like, wow, this is really not a democracy that we live in at all. And it's just like these things started to accumulate, and then Trump won, and then it was like, okay, back to the fucking drawing board after that. So that was my personal experience. Would you say you were ever apolitical, BP? I mean, I think you said in the interview I did with you, you were kind of apolitical when you were young, right?
Yeah, I mean, apolitical. The world's controlled by elite conspiracy, Illuminati. I was kind of like on that tip. And I'm like I said on that tip, but I don't completely dismiss it yet. I mean, I dismiss any fucking weird Nazi shit, motherfuckers, right when you're trying to throw in it. But like, I don't dismiss it yet. As far as the Illuminati shit, I definitely still like subscribe. Bilderberger Group is real. Bohemian Grove is real. Those things are real. So I still subscribe to them, but I have better understanding what's actually going on as a full picture versus a little snippet that then, my little young ass head would just go wild with, and like fucking, they got sorcery and blah, blah, like, I mean, they spend all that. And so, but for me, it was prison. Like, just sit down time to read a lot. And I already knew I was going to, like, when I realized I couldn't get college because of Bill Clinton, I knew what I was going to read from that point forward, which was like, Black Panther shit. Like, I even read stuff that was a little more right leaning, like Behold the Pale Horse, but also has some good knowledge and also has some weird shit in it. So yeah, I just read a lot. I just read a lot, and that's kind of really pushed me from apolitical to actively political, because when you're trying to fight the Illuminati and shit, you're looking for this. Your whole idea is wanting to like sneak into something and then get, like, I can't say because of terms of service, but but you get this fictional idea of how it works when it's way more complicated. And even if you did all those people did happen to decide to, like, take a swim off the edge of the planet, then they still just get replaced by other people trying to put those spots in. And learning about that more and learning about history more kind of just really made me less maybe not apolitical, just because I'm like, okay, well, tangible things I think we can do then. And that's so
I like the way Parenti put it, which is that like there is a big conspiracy. It's called capitalism, and they don't try to hide it. It's like all in the open. Like they don't have to hide it. So, but I think
it's both.
Okay.
To be honest with you, I think it's both.
There's obviously like it's like I was saying earlier, like there's stuff happening that we don't know about, but like we don't know about it, I guess. But the thing that really I don't know. I guess I've never really been into like the conspiracy shit at any point in my life, but when I was like super apolitical, that's when I started to realize that the Republicans and the Democrats were like on the same side, like the duo party, and that they served the same interests. But I didn't realize at that time that it was the capitalist interest. I don't really know what I thought. I guess I just thought they were just like powerful people or whatever, but I didn't understand enough. I didn't have enough education and class consciousness to understand that it was like capitalism that was like the structure that caused this, conspiracy, for lack of a better term, to exist.
Capitalism is a conspiracy, but I do want to say that the conspiracy and secret societies aren't fake either. Now, some of what the right interprets them to mean is fake. There are no reptilians. It's not some Jewish conspiracy. It's a white supremacist conspiracy, right? And the thing is, like, Skull and Bones are real. The Bilderberger Group is real. Fucking Bohemian Grove is real. The fucking pedophile rings are real. Like, Let's not forget about Jeffrey Epstein and why the motherfucking his book hasn't been leaked. I wonder why. Like, all those things are fucking real. It's just not in the way that like the right wing and the fascists want to portray it. I think those secret societies really do exist. Like Skull and Bones is proven to be real. Like we know for a fact. It's real, like a bunch of rich assholes. It's like a fraternity or some shit. But like, they do have their little things and weird things they do. But it's because they're fucking rich human. A lot of things I can't call them on here without being completely demonetized. But they do some fuck shit, and so I think it's kind of in the middle. I think left wants to dismiss too much of it, but then the right just goes, of course, kind of off the rails. With some weird shit.
I think Sam kind of synthesized it here. That's not conspiracy theory. That's just literally conspiracy. COINTELPRO is another good example of just literal conspiracy. Yeah.
MK Ultra.
Good point. Yeah.
Like all these different pieces. So that's one thing I always push back on it, because I feel like people want to dismiss it too easily. I'm like, no. Dismiss the white supremacists, yes. Like, absolutely. Mm-hmm. But there's more. It's not absolutely bogus. And I think there is some use in it, but I think it's only useful as long as you can realize also the structures that is capitalism that enables those other behaviors that they partake in. I think we can, by having those knowledge of what they do to some degree, we can use it as I'll say a weapon against them. But it's just, but I think that we can't then take understanding how capitalism works, understanding how these structures work, to just be like, oh, but that's Skull and Bones. I mean, we got I think we got to take it all within a whole, and then reject the bullshit that is just fictional, made up shit by weirdos like Alex Jones, or wasn't Alex Jones? Was his name Alex? Is that it?
Alex
Infowars?
Jones. Yeah.
Okay, I got it right for Infowars dude. Or like reject the weird shit that they say, but like also don't dismiss the real shit when it's real. You know what I mean? I've always been big on that. Like for me, knowledge is important. Understanding what's really going on is important. I feel like a lot of times, like there's like there's three sides, right? That whole saying. You know what I mean? There's their side, and then there's the truth, and it's usually neither. So yeah, I was a little rant, but
yeah, and I guess there's a lot more to talk about, but we are pretty much out of time at this point. So thanks everybody for watching. If you drop another dono or super chat, it's not quite too late, but we're gonna wrap things up here. Wait, hold on real quick. This looks like an interesting comment. AOBP, I'm a producer. Would you want me to send you some beats? And if so, are there any specific styles you're trying to mess with? Mad off topic, but I had to put this out there before the live ends. Well, you got in just in time, Johnny.
Send to Overthrow Media at Gmail. I'll peep them. I like darker beats, but also I'm looking for some cipher beats specifically. I'm trying to get this thing where I have like a cipher of a whole bunch of revolutionary radical like MCs. I just need to find the right beat for it. I've been looking through the beats I have, but I really need like a beat that's good for like ciphers, for like as well. But so if you're interested, just hit me. I'm also interested just to build in general. You know what I mean? Because most of all my beats right now that I have access to are all leased. So if we can build on some stuff, and if we're vibing each other's stuff, then I'm hella down. So
hell yeah. Well, that's it. So thanks for watching, everybody. Sorry we couldn't answer every single chat and everything. We had some really good discussion in the comments. We'll definitely keep the conversation going next week. If you want to watch, my next stream is going to be... Oh, wait. So the stream lineup, Sunday, you got me and BP again, because BP has Sex Sundays. What time does that start?
6.
6 p.m., right? Eastern time?
Eastern time, yeah.
Yeah, 6 p.m. Eastern U.S. time. You have BP with Sex Sundays, and then a little bit after that, I will be on Breadcast, probably 10 p.m. Eastern. We've been experimenting with the time slot. We might be going to 9, but we'll probably do 10 p.m. Eastern. Anyway, that'll be on NonCompete Live. And one last time, folks, if you want to watch the Dialectic in the future, subscribe to BP at youtube.com/c/overthrow media. It's scrolling down there at the bottom right now. There's a link in the description if you're watching this on YouTube.
The
Dialectic is moving. So. Oh, what's happening tomorrow at 6 p.m.? Oh, yeah, the fucking gun control video, BP's magnum opus, will be dropping. I am excited. Like I said, I've seen the first third, and I'm like on the edge of my seat with the cliffhanger wanting to see the rest of it. So be sure to check that out. It's going to be a long video, but I think you should grab some snacks, get a soda,
popcorn.
and enjoy that. Hell yeah. Fuck yeah, get some popcorn and enjoy that. So, all right, well, that's it. That's it for tonight. Folks, thank you for watching. Yeah, BP, go ahead.
Okay, so just for anybody who wants to know, I've changed all my socials to Patreon to Big Villainous. No more Villainous_music. So just letting y'all know, it's Big Villainous now. Felt like it was made more sense to change it to my name instead of like having a Villainous_music, which was cool at the time. But I feel like if I'm gonna do it, I needed to do it now because my channel's growing fast. So I feel like I need to fix this ASAP. So I did it.
Hell yeah. You know? Get a little brain consistency. Well, I love it. Yeah. So make sure you follow Big Villainous on all the socials. And, of course, you can subscribe to Overthrow Media if you want to keep watching this show, and support BP on Patreon if you want to keep that show going. I'm EJ. This is NonCompete and Overthrow Media, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Yeah, peace.